Dow's holding on to a gain of 250. S&P's good for 0.5%. That's 23 points. Nasdaq's green. The Russell's green. Yield on the 10 years at 148. All right, Stephanie Link, we've got a lot of unknowns. What's the Fed going to do with tapering? What are earnings going to bring in this quarter? Stocks are volatile and uncertain. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, there's always a list of worries, always, right? Add in what you just said into supply chain issues, and we had a whole host of them this week. Washington unknowns, and now China, and China is slowing pretty quickly. But I look and I say, okay, we just had this great news on Merck. I'm listening to what companies are saying. They're saying demand is still very, very strong. It's the supply side that's hurting their businesses. They'll figure that out. But then I look, Scott, we had a 6.7% GDP number. I look at the economy. That is really a great number. Today's ISM manufacturing number was over 60. The new orders number was over 60. That's the 15th consecutive month. That's a leading indicator for higher earnings going forward. And the University of Michigan numbers, we were all afraid that the numbers were starting to come down in terms of sentiment. That number actually surprised to the upside. Savings rate is at 9.4%, and people are spending. There's pent-up demand. So I look at above average growth here in the States. I listen to what the companies are saying. Yes, we have inflation and we have bottlenecks on the supply side of things, but you add those two things up, that's why rates are going higher. And that usually favors the rotation back into value versus growth, which we have been seeing, minus yesterday, but we have been seeing that over the last couple of weeks. I think that playbook into the end of the year is the playbook that I recommend and I actually have at this point.
So earnings comps are going to be tougher, though, Steph, right? What if they're disappointing? That's going to be a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why you have to find companies that are number one in their industries. They have a proven track record in terms of execution. And most importantly, Scott, they have pricing power. These companies in general, overall, the last 18 months have been restructuring. They had no choice, right? Because business went away. So now you have good cost structures, and you're going to have a decent top line, maybe some supply constraints, I get it, but you're going to have decent top line, not as strong as second quarter, but you will have good numbers, and you have operating leverage. And that's why I think the cyclicals and economically sensitive companies are the ones you want to own, because they have more operating leverage than some of the secular tech, secular growth. Not abandoning those sectors, but I just have a skew towards more operating leverage companies that will win, I think, into the end of the year.
Mr. All-In, Farmer Jim Lebenthal.
Yo.
The most positive person on this desk over the last many weeks is you, my friend. Mr. All-In. How are you feeling entering Q4?
I like the name.
You do? You still?
I like the name. I'm sticking with it. You know, you brought up earnings, and I want to start there, if I may, because we're talking about the earnings for the quarter that ended September 30th. And what was the big motive force for those 3 months? It was the Delta variant of the virus. Guess what? The Delta variant has peaked. The numbers clearly show that. The news from Merck is even more positive in that regard, that at least for this moment in time, COVID is becoming less of a hindrance. It will allow workers to get back to the ports and unload cargo ships. It will allow shifts to be manned at semiconductor plants around the world. These are positives. The Fed is going to continue to be accommodative, continue to buy bonds for at least the next 8 months, maybe in reduced sizes. That's another positive. So what's weighing on the markets right now? I don't think it's earnings, Scott. I think it's Congress. You and I argued about this earlier this week, but I'm going to stay on topic here. I'm going to stay on point. There's a lot of uncertainty with Congress. We know that. But what we also know is it's going to be resolved. I don't know if it's today, next week, or 2 weeks. But that's the time frame that we're looking at. And when you get past those uncertainties, you've got all those positives that I talked about, and they lead to a cyclical reopening stage 2.0 that you can bet I am all in on cyclicals, value. Let's go.
Okay.